Welcome to Was I in a Cult Part 72. So it was like 1998 when I returned to this, what I'm now calling a cult. And I had left, and again, like I said before, I was in the middle of like conversion therapy and going to all these conferences. And in the process, I had met Rita. And then we kind of started going to these conferences together and doing different types of groups together. But she ended up hanging out with my leader, Sandra. And when she started hanging out with Sandra at the time, I had already gotten away from Sandra, and I was upset with Sandra because she basically said, like, she couldn't work with me anymore because she didn't know how to deal with gay people. But then she decided to, like, work with Rita, and Rita was one of us. So I don't understand why she could work with Rita, but she couldn't work with me. Honestly, right now, as I'm talking about it, now I am realizing that I didn't even realize I was upset at the time that she was working with Rita. But now I'm realizing, like, okay, wait a minute. She couldn't work with me because she said she had no experience working with gay and lesbian people. But then she, like, took Rita under her wing, and that just kind of, like, irks me now that I think about it, because it's like that's that's so hypocritical. Like, you said you couldn't work with gay people, but now you're gonna work with her, and you pawned me off on somebody else to work with because you didn't want to deal with me anymore. But you're gonna go ahead and take this other person on that's basically in the same situation. It made no sense to me. At the time, I was so engulfed in my religion that I didn't even know how to, like, be angry about stuff like this. It was just like I had to realize, like, oh, it's God's plan, or it's God's will, or, like, that was what I was basically told. So basically, this is really a weird situation because Rita was originally from the Hawthorne Church, and then she, for some reason, decided that she was going to start coming to the Mother Church, which was the church that I was a part of. And I don't know why she ended up coming. She was coming to our church, and I met her only because she was going to our school of ministry. But she wasn't like a church member at our church. She was from a different church in a different city. But for whatever reason, she decided that she was going to start coming all the way from Hawthorne to La Puente to go to our church. And it was kind of cool because, like, I got to see her a little bit more often. But then she started hanging around with Sandra, and she would sit with Sandra. Like, and it was kind of bothering me because I used to sit with Sandra and I was Sandra's disciple, and now, like, Rita was taking my spot or my place. And I just, I don't know. I didn't really like that so much, but it was what it was. I had kind of stopped talking to Sandra because, like I said, she basically rejected me. So I was like, why do I even need to be around her or be her friend anymore? Like, because she basically, I don't know, like, told me she wasn't going to work with me anymore. So whatever, like, I'm not gonna go sit with you and hang out with you, and I'm not gonna, like, be around you anymore. But I wanted to be around Rita, but I didn't want to be around her if she was around Sandra. And quite possibly I was probably jealous because I felt like Sandra was taking my friend from me at this point. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I ended up having another friend at the time, and I started hanging around with other people, and um, I don't know. I just remember that it was a hard time for me because I had to start over with friendships in the church, and it was like high school all over again. I felt so alone sometimes, and I felt like I didn't really belong there. I would go, and I remember sitting and not really having anyone talk to me. You know what I mean? Like, it was like I always had to be the one to go out of my way to go talk to other people. But I just started to test the waters, and I thought, like, what if I just sit here? Will anybody actually even come and talk to me or say hi to me or hug me? You know, like after church, like one day I just sat there and I just realized that as I was sitting there, not one person in the church approached me. I probably looked like I was not doing well, like, because I'm sitting by myself, I'm not being involved, I'm not being my normal self and going around and saying hi to everyone and hugging everyone because that's what I normally did. I'm just like isolated in the corner, but yet not one person in that church approached me to even ask me how I was doing. I had backed away from basically all the ministries that I was a part of before, and I do remember still wanting to be a part of the prison ministry, and I started going there. And I think that's the time that I started to get closer with Susan, which was that original person I told you I had the crush on. Um, but she wasn't always consistent and faithful with prison ministry either. So we kind of like, you know, kind of separated as well. And I guess I just like threw myself into that ministry, but I didn't always get along with the other people that were leading that ministry because they were very, I don't know, very controlling and dominating and stuff like that. And I didn't really like that. They kind of took their prison mentality into the church and thought they were like running the yard or something. And I was like, you're not running me. I'm not on the yard and I'm not in prison. So this isn't going to work very well. But I did have this other ministry that I absolutely loved being a part of called Bill Glass Weekend of Champions. And we used to go once a year to a big event in Fresno, where we would meet up in Fresno and then we would go into the prisons in Chowchilla, and that was like the highlight of my year. And it always helped me no matter what. I always went to that ministry and I would come back so full of joy, feeling like I was living out my purpose, you know, but it wasn't a part of our ministry. So I remember that our church was very like kind of leery of really wanting me to be a part of that. And it was like they started to be like, well, like, who told you you could go to that? You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm an adult, I can go wherever I want to go, like. And they started to just be like, well, you're a part of our church and our ministry, and you shouldn't be like going out to other ministries to do, you know, evangelism with other ministries. You should be doing it with ours. And I'm like, well, I am doing it as much as we can, but at that time the prison ministry in our church wasn't really doing much. They were going into a lot of men's and youth camps for boys, and I wanted to be going into the women's prisons. I definitely didn't want to go into a men's prison, and that's what they were doing. So I'm like, no, I don't want to go to see juvenile boys. Like, that's just, it's not really my calling, and I definitely don't want to be around that environment. So they were a little upset with me, and they were also calling me like not being able to be obedient to, you know, them. And it was like, no, I just had to get to the point where I just wasn't involved in really any ministries, and I just kind of did my own thing because I couldn't deal with all the control that you would have over you once you did like involve yourself in any ministry in that church. So I kind of became what that church would consider a lone wolf because I wasn't really like accountable to anyone, and I just did my own thing, and they didn't like that. Because again, they could not control me. The church was all about control. I'm running out of time, but if I leave it on anything, I want to let you know that this church was very controlling. If you're in a church that tries to control you and what you do and where you go, then you're probably in a cult. I know I said that these videos were going to be shorter, but again, this is almost a 10-minute video. But I am out of time, so I will talk to you guys tomorrow.